Hi designers! In this video I'll be going over everything that you need to know to complete your technical skills final. That's one of the projects in the final. For that part you'll be given resource images like the pencil and the apple here, and then a design to copy like this one. And for the final you want to try to copy it as exactly as possible. The goal is that your design would look indistinguishable from the example. So I'm going to start off with a new file. I see from my rulers here that this one is 6 inches by 6 inches. If you can't see your rulers, you can go up to View, Rulers, and that will allow you to see the size, or you could go to Image, Image Size, and you could look at the size there to figure out what that example is. So I'm going to make sure that it is 6 inches by 6 inches. The standard resolution is always 200, and as always, last, first, and this is practice final. Now this is not exactly what will be on the final, but it has all of the same components that will be on the actual final. So the first thing that I notice here is that the apple has been copied and pasted from the original, but not the background. So you're going to use one of your selection tools, and there's a group of selection tools up here to review: the marquee tools, the lasso tools, the magic wand, and the quick selection. My favorite is the quick selection, but of course you can use whichever is your favorite. Select the apple, copy it, Command C on your keyboard or edit, copy, and then paste it. Now, as I look back and forth here, I notice that the apple is a little bit larger in the example than it is in mine. So I'm going to transform that, which is Command T, or I could use the Move tool and click Show Transform Controls. I'm going to hold Shift on the keyboard to maintain the size. And I'm going to guess right at first here and click Enter. Don't go back and forth between the images while you're trying to transform, because the transformation won't take. So I'm pretty close here. Looks like mine needs to go over and up just a bit. Mine looks just a little bit small. Again, you want to try to get this as precise as possible. All right, that is pretty close. It might be a couple of pixels off. There we go. All right, next I notice is that the pencil has been copied and pasted. So same thing, I'm going to use the quick selection. Let me show you how to use the magic wand tool in this case. The magic wand tool selects solid colors. And because this has a solid background, I can simply click on the background, and it will select almost everything except the pencil. Now, it still gets the shadow, so I'm actually going to turn my tolerance up just a bit here and try that again. That was a little bit better. You can see that's why different people like different tools. There we go. Now I've got just the pencil, and I want to inverse the selection. So I come to Select, Inverse. Now I have just the pencil. Copy it. Go back over to my practice and paste it. Transform it, make it a little bit smaller, holding Shift to make sure I don't distort it at all. And then place it approximately where I think it should go. Okay, it needs to be smaller. About like that, that's about right. And let's find the center here. The center looks like it's right about where that dot is on the apple. Maybe right above it. So if I find the same spot, oh, right there. But I did notice that this needs to be a little bit more of an angle. That's looking pretty good. Use the Move tool to move it over. That shortcut on your keyboard is V. And then flip back and forth here. That's pretty close. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is duplicate all of these around. Now, I'll give you a little clue. There's not as many to duplicate as in the example on the final, but you will need to know how to duplicate and rotate like this. So let's just count 1, 2, 3, 14. There's about 28 of these. Gosh, that's a lot. All right, so in order to duplicate these, I'm going to move the anchor up to the corner of the transformation box here. And then I'm going to hold Option finish that transformation. I'm going to hold Option and duplicate. But you know what? That's going to move these around and then I'd have to replace them. So instead of doing that, I'm going to duplicate the layer. And then I'm going to move the anchor point and use the rotation to twist around 180 degrees, opposite. Then I'm going to merge these layers together, go up to Layer, Merge. All right, and then I'm going to duplicate them again. All right, and now the anchor point's right in the center. So I can just rotate those around to about 90 degrees. I can merge those down. The shortcut is Command E. Duplicate again. Rotate again. It's going to give me 8. Merge, Command E, duplicate, and duplicate one more time. To get them even. Now that looks pretty similar. It's maybe not exactly, but again, I would say that that's pretty close. So we can also go ahead and merge those together, Command E and Command E, and move the pencils behind the apple. And now you can see they look really similar. There's a slight difference. I think there's a few more pencils here, but that will work. Now we need to colorize the pencils. And I could have done that before I duplicated them all, but there's another way to do it as well. First, I'm going to make a selection of this layer by holding Command and clicking on the layer thumbnail. Step in colorizing is actually to desaturate or to take out all of the color. And you can do that by going up to Image, Adjustments, and you've got a couple of different options here. You can go to Hue Saturation, and you can just take out all the color, and that will desaturate them. And for what we're doing, that will work just fine. The other way that you can do it is going up to Image Adjustments, Black and White. Usually this is the method that I prefer because it allows you to control the colors, but we're really only dealing with yellow in the pencils here. So, but I'll go ahead and use this. We're going for a light medium value. You want it light so that you can add color to it, and you want some value left without white in it so that you can have something to colorize. All right, the next step is to choose your brush tool, set the mode to multiply. If you have it on normal and you try to color, that will just make it flat, and so you want to multiply so that it adds the color and preserves the texture. And I like to start with red because it's at the bottom of the hue slider here. And if you look at the example, red is about over here. And so now I can just use the brush, and because it's selected, it will only add the color to the area that's selected. So you start with red, and then just slide the hue slider up a bit, and go to the next one. And you're going to continue this all the way around the wheel of pencils here. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this, but you can fast forward through the video because I'm just going to repeat it on every single pencil, changing the color, sliding the hue slider up, and just incrementally going all the way around. Occasionally I'm going to check the practice just to make sure, like on this one the yellows are all the way over here already. So I need to add some more oranges. So go ahead and watch this on fast forward as I colorize these pencils. All right, and there we have it. All of our pencils are colorized, and it is pretty close to the original. There might be a few differences, but I've demonstrated the skills in that I know how to do exactly what the example looks like. So the next step, I'm going to deselect, Command D, and then the next thing that I'm looking at here, I could either work on this custom shape, which is a coffee stain, I could work on the text in the background, or I could work on the apples. And this is something where at the final you really need to use your time wisely. It is a timed final. You have to finish everything within 2 hours. So the next biggest thing I think is the apple, so I'm going to do that next. In order to create this apple that was in the background, you need to be able to use your pen tool to create a custom shape. So I'm going to select the pen tool, and then I'm going to draw a path. So click and drag some curve handles. And remember that when you draw a path, you want to try to use as few anchor points as possible, because that's what makes the path editable and scalable, which are the benefits of drawing a path in the first place instead of just using your brush tool. And again, at first I'm not worrying about the accuracy of this, I'm just laying down my anchor points. But then I really want to zoom in and check that that path is as close to the apple and as accurate as possible. And this is pretty good. A lot of times when I zoom in, I'll find big mistakes, but this apple is very round, so that made it pretty easy. All right, now that I have my path, I'm ready to create my shape layer. I come down here to the bottom of the layers panel and make a new layer, and then I'm going to create a solid color fill. Oh, and what's happening here is I did not set my pen tool correctly, and it is subtracting the path from the rest of the layer, but that's okay, because I can come and use my path selection tool to select that path and then change the function of the path. At least I should be able to. Alright, so you see I had to go over to the Paths panel and change the path. I had clicked on the work path instead of the color fill path. So I used my path selection tool, and then I used the different modes up here, add to shape area. Now in the example, this is red, and to get that exact red I can actually use the eyedropper tool and suck up that color. And then do the same thing here, and now I have very close to that same red. I think it was just a little bit more red there. Now the other thing with this is that there's an outline around these apples, and it's not just around the outside of the layer, but it's actually inside as well. So that's another thing that you need to add on top, is to use the pen tool and to trace that area right around the stem. So two different paths, one right here, and then one for the stem. And then I'm going to create a new layer and stroke the path using the brush tool. Set up the brush tool first, make sure it is on normal. I think that the size of that is about 10, yeah, about maybe 15. There we go. And then I'm going to control click on the path, stroke path using the brush tool, and there we go, there's my outline. I can do the same thing using this path. All I need to do is copy the path with the path selection tool and paste it onto the work path there. And then again, working on that outline layer, I can stroke it using the brush tool, and that creates my outline. Alright, so there's my little apple illustration. Looks pretty much like the example, but in the example this has been duplicated multiple times, which is fine. We know how to copy and paste, but what we need to do is actually merge these two layers together. I'm not a huge fan of that, but in this case you need to do that so that you have the outline with this extra line here. So let's go ahead and merge. Command E. Oh, it did not merge. There we go. I needed to complete the transformation. Command E. Oh, I won't merge down. So what I need to do is rasterize the apple because this is a vector mask and a solid color fill. So I'm going to control click on the layer, rasterize the layer, and then merge the layers together. Command E, or go up to Layer, Merge Down. Now I can use the selection tool to tell Photoshop what I want to copy. And copy by holding Command C on my keyboard, deselect, and then paste. And I can make the duplicates of the original. And I can Command T, transform them. And then I can look at this example and place them all around the composition. And again, this is going to take me a little bit of time, so you can go ahead and watch this on fast forward as I get these apples correctly positioned. Another way that you can copy and paste the apples is actually to use the Move tool and hold Option and then drag out a copy, which in this case is really helpful because these apples are closer in size. So instead of having to reposition and resize each one, I can get a lot closer by doing that. Once you have all the apples in place, the last two steps are really simple. All you need to do is add the custom shape, which in this case is a coffee stain, and the text in the background. So for the custom shape, you're going to go to your custom shapes menu. Make sure that you've added all the custom shapes, and you can do so by going to the little arrow here and adding all and appending those shapes. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. And then finding a custom shape. And I don't see the coffee stain here. I don't think it's included in this version of Photoshop. So I'm just going to use something similar. For the final, you will have exactly what you need. You won't have to download anything or go searching the internet for it. So in this case, I'm just going to use this little flower shape, something round. Oh, actually this one's pretty close. All right, and drag it out here. Now you'll notice it is in front of the apple, and so I'm going to pay attention to my layer orders here and get it in between the apple and the pencils, and then move it around, maybe transform it a little bit, get it just the right size to kind of imitate that coffee stain. And it's like a light brown color. So I'm going to change the color by double clicking on the color fill and getting that light brown color. And then also the opacity of the layer has been turned way down. So in the layers panel, I'm going to turn the opacity down, about like that. Adjust it just a little bit more. There we go. All right. Now I also noticed that the apples have also been merged together, and the layer opacity is down, and I can tell that they've been merged together because they all seem to be right about at the same opacity. So I can go to the top apple and then just hit Command E to merge them all into one layer, and that's just for convenience. I could go through and turn the opacity down on each layer, but this just makes it a lot easier to do it this way. A little bit more, I think about 50%. Yep, that looks about right. And then the last thing is my text. So I'm going to use my type tool, and I'm going to look very carefully. And I see that it says "school is cool" in the background, and so I'm going to type that. Change the color up in the options bar to a light blue. Make it a little bit larger, and I can do that either here in the options bar or holding Command on the keyboard and making it go all the way across. And then I need to find the font and match the font. And the easiest way to do that is to select all the text, just like I've done here, and then select the typeface or the font up in the menu bar and start scrolling and find that font. And if I look at the example, it looks like that ruled paper that you use in elementary school. So that's what I'm looking for. You can also use the drop-down menu, and you do have little bitty tiny samples here of the font, and so in this case that might help us out since there are so many fonts that I've downloaded. And here it is right here, Schoolhouse Printed. Alright, and then adjust the size. And again, adjust the placement. Now again, the skills are more important than the placement. So when it comes to the final, you want to make sure that, again, you're managing your time properly. And you want to get it close as far as placement goes, but if it comes down to whether or not you finish it, you want to get it finished rather than have it be partially done and in exactly the right spot. So that's pretty close right there. You can see a difference. I do see one major difference in that the color is different, so I'm going to make it a little bit less intense. That's a little bit closer. And then I'm going to copy and paste. I see that the leading has been changed. That's not something that you're going to need for the final because we haven't covered that yet, but I will do it here just so that you can see how it is done. The leading is right here. And as you can see, that controls how much space is in between each line. Let's see, how many times does it say it? About like that. There we go, and I can take that layer and put it in the background. And I have a design that is pretty close to this original, and it definitely shows all the skills that I needed. Alright, so I would save that and turn that into the MediaArt Share Drive, making sure that my name and the final is on there. And if you finish this all the way, because it's very complicated, this is worth extra credit, so that's something that you can do to help boost your grade on the final. Alright, good luck!